fresh off the boat. I'm delighted to be chatting with Ayan Sani, a student I've known since 2014-15, I think, or even a bit earlier than that. I remember visiting your home, I think, when you were in ninth or something, and then we finally started working when you were in American Embassy School later on in high school. So, Ayan, how was it like sort of graduating now in 2019 from USC and also doing economics and finance as a major? But before we get to talking about academics, what was it like moving into a campus like USC, which is very urban, and number of students is pretty daunting compared to where you were coming from? AES is a really tiny school. How was it like settling in?
I think it was definitely an interesting experience. I think the amazing part about USC is it actually has the largest international student body in the States. So from that perspective, I think it's very easy culturally. The environment was obviously amazing. USC has that long reach and they have a great campus, they have great facilities. So that was quite an easy transition as well. AES had that as well in Delhi. And I think all of that together made it quite an easy transition for me. It was quite welcoming here.
Great. So in terms of the academic sort of rigor and the requirements, how did you sort of map things out in your initial days at USC? What resources did you use, and how did you sort of get your mojo in terms of figuring out what works for you, studying, and then gradually finding what major you want to sort of focus on?
I mean, I was a little bit luckier in that I always had a view of exactly what I wanted to study, and it ended up being economics. So I came in with that mindset already. I came in as an economics major. Obviously, some people have the ability to come in undecided and figure it out, but I had that already mapped out for me. And something I found quite early on is very useful is building your rapport with professors. So I thought that I would go to office hours, get engaged with them early in the semester, give them sort of an explanation of exactly what I wanted to achieve from the class, what I was looking for out of it, and if anything, what I thought might be something that I'd struggle with, and then how they could help me. Just early on, one of the first few weeks, once you get started after the syllabus and getting introductory days over, you really start to get a feel of what the class is going to be like. So I think it's important to go to the professors and do what I just said. And another thing is also exploring the resources the departments had. So what I did was speak to the advisors early on, map out exactly, roughly, what I wanted my 4 years to look like. And I sort of made an Excel file and populated it with classes that I wanted to take. Because, some semesters classes are offered, others they're not. So working out that also helped me out.
Great. And in terms of knowing that you want to study economics and then ending up doing quantitative economics, which luckily turned out in your case to be a STEM major, what is a quantitative economics curriculum? How do you sort of proceed with that as you sort of go to your upperclassmen years?
So the difference really between quantitative economics and economics is in the math requirement. So some schools have a math econ option as well available to them, and that'll be quantitative. But really, it's up to the school whether the curriculum is quantitative enough. A quantitative curriculum essentially means you'll have econometrics, you'll have more modeling, you'll have more manipulation of data and the presentation of data, and it'll probably be a little bit more research heavy. So that's the general difference. As long as you're comfortable with math, really, it's the right way to go.
Fantastic. So modeling, research, all of this are skills, of course, any major would require. Doing it in combination with economics makes you ready for consulting jobs, iBanking jobs, or what traditional paths do students follow? We'll talk about your journey in entrepreneurship and interest in entrepreneurship, but just before that, I just thought, what do general graduates from doing a major in quantitative economics usually end up doing?
I think the good thing is economics itself is quite a broad subject. So you can do consulting quite easily. You have that logical base. So that's a great foundation to have. For investment banking, you already have the comfort with manipulating data. So you're able to model stuff, conduct valuations, etc., which is what you're essentially going to be doing as an investment banking analyst. And you have other fields that you could go into as well that perhaps people haven't thought of, which is tech. I think a lot of quantitative economics programs introduce you to basic computer science as well. And so you can go into that tech space and that venture space if you put in a little bit extra work on the side or as a minor to learn those skills, then even that's open to you.
So you end up also doing a bit of CS and
Right.
data science along the way.
Right.
Which courses did you take up to sort of learn more about data science and say CS?
So I actually took a few basic computer science classes. I took some classes on C++. I was already comfortable with Python, and the most useful one in economics is something called Stata, and that's just a modeling program to visualize data. So those are the general ones that you get to use in economics.
Excellent. Also, your interest in knowing about entrepreneurship, pretty much since high school, I've been following that you have that passion to do something. What was it like using resources at Marshall? And you also ended up doing a concentration in finance there. How does it work? Is it really easy to sign up for classes at Marshall if you're not a business sort of major? And what choices did you make learning not just finance, but topics related to entrepreneurship that attracted you?
So one of the interesting things is I think Marshall is very visible on campus, so you're always going to have opportunities to interact with it, whether it be in an academic setting or outside the class. So you can get involved in Marshall activities like clubs and the venture fund, which is an investing fund, or a student fund where they invest part of the endowment, even if you're not anywhere close to finance or Marshall. But I had a minor, and I think the best way to get most out of Marshall is to be either a major there or a minor. And the minor isn't generally too difficult on anyone. It's quite easy minor in that you won't have to take too many classes, so it won't mess with your existing curriculum, whatever it may be. So I took quite a few different classes. Something I was interested in extensively is financial derivative trading, and I'd been exposed to options for a while, and so I took a class in that at Marshall, which is quite a high level class, and did we did you know we modeled it, back tested different types of strategies, and invested in a simulation. So that was interesting. I did valuation work, which is the class just focuses on M&A type work, which you would do in investment banking. You'd be exposed to in private equity, really all forms. And a few other different classes, basic accounting, basic finance, and it really just gives you a wide variety of things. You don't really specialize in the minor, but you can really just pick whichever way you want to go.
Now let's talk a little bit more about your interest in entrepreneurship. And I know that really excites you, and you're also involved in the Entrepreneurship World Cup as an advisor. We'll learn more about that. But tell me a bit about Marshall and LA as in a place for entrepreneurship ideas and the support that you got or people that you met, the clubs that you joined, which led you to sort of your journey in entrepreneurship.
Sure. So Marshall has quite a few clubs, and USC does as a whole, that focus on investing in different forms. So whether that's trading, block, crypto, the venture fund, which is investing in student startups or supporting student startups, or investing in the endowment, it has that in various forms. So entrepreneurship is widespread on campus. I think that was something quite interesting, seeing all the different clubs and giving students access to real capital and being able to actually deploy that. And another big advantage of that, of joining these types of clubs, is a lot of the clubs have their own recruiting events, and a lot of them have their own relationships with recruiters and with existing firms. And that's partly because of alumni, and that's partly because of their whoever has funded them, whether it was the school or alumni. And so that was really helpful. I think in LA as a whole, its proximity to Silicon Valley helps. Obviously, Silicon Valley is the hub for innovation. I think in the world would be fair to say, but LA still gets some of that. LA still gets some of that. Quite a few venture firms. There are quite a few startups, especially in the Santa Monica area, which is only about 15, 20 minutes from where USC is located. And it's quite a dynamic area. I think LA as a whole has a lot to offer, and you can really make as much of it as you would like.
Fantastic. And what are the opportunities that led you to now pursue entrepreneurship or ideas within entrepreneurship with the family business and as an advisor to the Entrepreneurship World Cup? What is it that you're doing now, and where can we see you in the next few years?
Well, I've always been interested in venture capital work from the start. I think the fact is you get insane returns, and I think that's always attractive to anyone. What we tend not to look at is the fact that a lot of firms fail, but I'm focusing on survivorship bias. So I like to see that those crazy returns are possible. And that's really what venture capital is about. It's about investing in a person, an idea, and seeing that grow exponentially. And so I had the opportunity to join the Entrepreneurship World Cup team alongside T. Guelph. And what they are currently doing is working on different forms of Entrepreneurship World Cup, whether it's to do with partnerships, whether it's to do with raising capital, whether it's to do with screening the startups, or even judging the actual competition. And it's quite an interesting project. This is the second year of the project. The first year was a resounding success. The lead judges that decided where the capital would be invested were Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, JB Straubel, who's a co-founder of Tesla, and a few other people were involved in that as well as lead judges. And it's definitely something I think everyone should check out, and anyone with an idea should go check out, because just for signing up, you get a few different perks. You get everything from storage with Google and Amazon Web Services. You get some partnerships works. You get some access to certain types of software that you wouldn't necessarily have. So I think it's something that anyone with an idea or anyone with a venture should check out.
Fantastic. I believe it also has opportunities for high school, college students, and of course, young entrepreneurs. What do you think a high schooler or a college student could do to participate in this competition?
Well, like I said, really all you have to do is apply. So if you have as little as just an idea, a concept, you can apply to the program. And if your idea is sort of deemed acceptable to whoever is screening it and judging it, then you'll be able to progress to different stages and you'll compete against other people who have ideas. The competition doesn't discriminate based on where you are or how old you are, really. It's just about how plausible your idea is and if it's something acceptable that we could take on.
So I'm going to switch gears now and ask you questions which are, would require a rapid fire response.
Sure.
When you look back at your high school and now college and now work, you might have experienced failures or situations where you embarrassed yourself. What were the learnings from these situations? And very quickly, if you could tell us one or two.
I mean, I like the fact that adversity really helped me change, and I think it's always nice to see you power through, and that goes for anything. So I had a few different challenges, but I think I sort of traversed them acceptably.
Super. If you were to pick 3 adjectives that describe your strengths, what would they be?
Let's see, analytical, straightforward, and well, I'm just going to go with 2 for now.
Okay. So the next question is, if you were to reflect back on the lockdown and shelter at home situation for the last 2 months in this global pandemic, what are your reflections from this personally as well as professionally, and even sort of if you are, in terms of your well-being, how do you sort of reorient yourself now?
Sure. And I mean, I think it was always important to have a routine. Luckily, I got that down. It's always important to keep in touch as well. Being sure that you're able to get some sense of normalcy really helps. And I think I got that down acceptably. Yeah. Fitness too, definitely. And keeping
Fantastic.
fit would help. Yeah.
Now, the last question is more to do with the whole college application process
Sure.
and, high school days. And what advice would you give high schoolers to sort of power their way through, using your phrase, through awkward, odd times of teenage life and then getting to college? So overall, what do you think they should be doing during high school so that they make it to a right fit institution and thrive there?
I think what everyone is looking for these days, apart from obviously the academic requirements, is people want to see you doing something interesting and doing something that you're passionate about. So if you can try and merge those two things, whatever they may be, that'll help. That'll help greatly. I think as long as you're unique and you're able to bring something of value that you deem has value, then I think you'll be good and you'll find the right place.
So thank you, Ayan. It was a pleasure reconnecting with you. And we are sort of organizing a few panel discussions, and I'm sure there are so many interesting topics we could pick your brains on and invite you for those sessions. So looking forward to interacting further on that. All the best with whatever you're doing, and hope to see you in India sometime. Bye.
Yeah, definitely.